4, 3.
Welcome to the Town of Derry Planning Board meeting for October 18th, 2023. We start our meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we just want to remind folks, if you have electronic devices, to silence them. We continue to offer remote participation in our meetings. If you want to attend the meeting, you can do that via the zoom.us website with your browser. Meeting ID is 754-663-912, or you may dial in by phone. There are multiple numbers, one of which is 646-558-8656. Again, the meeting ID is the same, 754-663-912. If you are on the phone, hit *6 to unmute yourself when you've been recognized, and *9 to raise your hand to request to be recognized. The exit is at the back of the room. The emergency exit is at the back of the room, and to my right and to your left. If there is an alarm activation, please exit quickly but calmly. And if you need assistance, first responders will assist you to leave the building. I will introduce the board and staff who's present tonight. Starting on the far right is Mr. Cioris.
Good evening.
Our clerk, Ms. Carvello. Did I get that right?
Good evening.
Close. Town Administrator Rep. Mr. Chase.
Good evening.
Regular Member Mr. Healy.
Good evening.
Town Council Liaison Mr. McEachran.
Evening.
To my far left is Mr. Owen, who does all the video magic. Our Town Engineer, Mr. LaRue.
Good evening.
Mr. Feinauer.
Good evening.
Mr. Malaby.
Good evening.
And our Secretary,
Hello.
Mr. Myers. I am Dave Nelson. I'm the Vice Chair. I will be sitting as Chair Pro Tem this evening. First item on the agenda is escrow. I'll ask Mr. Cioris to review that for us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The request is from Aspen Dental, which is located at 38 Manchester Road. The letter of credits from Camden National Bank. The action requested, please approve a final release in the amount of $131,207.04 for the above noted project. The amount to retain is zero. The escrow is non-interest bearing. It's been signed by Public Works, Planning, and Building, so staff would recommend approval of the final release.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to request the final approval, and please approve the release in the amount of $131,207.04 for the above noted site plan. Amount to retain is zero. Site plan is 2315, Aspen Dental.
Second.
Moved by McCracken, seconded by Myers. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. McEachran?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next item.
Yeah, same thing. This one is different. This is to establish escrow. This is from Marjorie Palmer Trust on 14 Stark Road. Planning board approved a 2-lot subdivision. The purpose is to establish the escrow amount in cash for $32,947.50. The escrow amount is non-interest bearing. It has been signed by Public Works, Planning, and the Finance Department, and staff would recommend approval.
Mr. Chairman, seeing no issue with establishment of escrow for new project, I will move item number 2316, Marjorie Palmer Revocable Trust, to establish escrow in the amount of $32,947.50 for the project noted previously.
Second.
Moved by McCracken, seconded by Myers. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. McEachran?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Approval of minutes. We have before us approval of minutes of October 4th, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Are there any errors or omissions?
Seeing nobody raise their hand, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of October 4th, 2023.
Second.
Moved by McCracken, seconded by Myers. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. McCracken?
I will abstain as my person wasn't here, Mr. Granessi.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Correspondence. Do we have any correspondence this evening, sir?
None was given to me, no.
Outstanding job.
Other business. Do we have other business? Planning director updates?
The only item I have, Mr. Chairman, I will send a reminder, we will not have a meeting 2 weeks from tonight, November 1st. No plans came in, which is not unusual. We do have several plans in the pipeline, so you'll have a night off, and we'll meet again on the 15th of November. And I'll send a reminder out. So
Great.
that's all I have.
Thank you. Next item on agenda is a public hearing for Franklin Street LLC, parcel ID 30070, 16 Franklin Street. I will ask Mr. Soros to introduce that for us.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This will be hopefully my last one, then I'll turn it over to Paul. Real quickly, the project is Franklin Street LLC, property located at 16 Franklin Street. The purpose is for a 3-unit residential condominium located at the corner of Franklin and Pearl Streets. The property is located in the Central Business District. Most folks will know, but if you look out the door from the parking lot in the corner here, you'll see the burned building at the corner of Franklin and Pearl. All town departments have signed and reviewed the plan. There are 2 waiver requests. I'll let Paul speak to that. There are no state permits required. Staff would recommend approval of both the waiver request and the site plan application. And I'll turn over to Paul Chisholm, who's representing the developer.
Great. Thank you, George, and good evening, everybody. For the record, Paul Chisholm, I'm an engineer with Keach Nordstrom Associates. We're the engineers and surveyors of record for the project. On behalf of Franklin Street LLC, the proposed project tonight is a 3-unit condominium. As George mentioned, it's a property not far from this building at the corner of Franklin and Pearl. The existing 2-family buildings actually caught on fire, I think 2 years ago. And it's kind of been a little bit of a process to get through the zoning board to allow the 3-unit use and then on through here. As George mentioned, it is in the CBD zoning district. It had been in the TBOD overlay district, which kind of brought to light some setback issues and things like that. Obviously, with the recent zoning change, a number of those items have been cleared up. Owen, how do I? Perfect. If you can go to sheet 3, which is the next one down. One more, I'm sorry. One more down. So it would be page 4. Yep, thank you. So basically what the plan is, it's going to relocate the driveway off of Franklin Street and put it at the intersection of Pearl and where Franklin kind of continues on to the north. Just working through a couple different iterations of the project and meeting with TRC and talking with Mark and George and everybody. We felt it was best and safest option for access to the site. That leads into the west side of the buildings, which will have garage faces. You'll have parking kind of in front and between, a little bit of stormwater management, 2 small-scale bioretention ponds to the west and the south of the parking. Felt those were appropriate for this site because they can kind of be dressed up. They don't really look like, typical stormwater ponds. You definitely notice them, but they're a little bit cleaner and kind of fit into a urban scale like this a little bit better. The other thing that this will do is open up the site distance and available visibility as you're coming north on Franklin and looking west down Pearl. Currently, right now, the vegetation's very overgrown. There's a fence there that's coming down. We're also moving the stop bar a little bit closer to Pearl Street, still meeting the AASHTO requirements and all of those things, but just moving it a little bit further north just to, again, increase that visibility. Utilities for the project include basically your typical, city utilities, gas, water, sewer, that kind of thing. There will be a new hydrant located on here. Going through the last round of TRC, we met with the fire department, and one of their concerns was just not having adequate fire hydrants kind of in the area, not within 100 feet of the building. There's a utility room, you'll note, kind of on the southeast end of the structure. It's just a little 10 by 6 room. That's where like the meters and services will come into the building and things like that. And then, you know, your typical other site plan improvements, lighting, landscaping, all done to a residential scale. During construction, obviously, an erosion control plan just to help prevent, you know, typical things like that from getting into the existing stormwater system. The couple waivers that we're asking for are, I can read them into the record, but the first one is kind of interesting. It's basically that we have to put boundary markers in all the property corners. In the very northeast corner of the site, the boundary is actually, that monument is actually in the roadway. So instead of doing, you know, typically you have to put a granite bound there. Obviously, we don't want to do that. With that, we're basically asking for a waiver of that requirement. And the second one is for underground utilities in terms of the electrical services. There's a number of poles here. They're all very busy. We don't, it's kind of interesting, we don't get to work with Eversource until we have an approved plan. At that point, the contractor kind of takes it, and Eversource does their own design. But basically what we were effectively told is that there's a lot going on here, and it's very likely that to promote underground, they'd have to actually drop another pole in anyways. Obviously, the point of that regulation is to, you know, help declutter some of these things and that sort of thing. So in our opinion, it's kind of beneficial in a way to not have to install another pole just to be able to go underground. You know, there's an existing overhead wire to the buildings now. We're just hoping to replace it with that. I'd be happy to read those requests into the record. I did provide a letter kind of speaking to that effect for both. Mr. Chairman, however you'd like me to handle that, I'm happy to just discuss or fully read it in.
We typically will read the text at the time of motion, so
Yeah, sure.
if you just explain the rationale, that's good for us right now.
Sure, perfect, okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it on as far as the rationale goes. Again, happy to chat about those in a little bit more detail if anybody has any questions. I'm also joined tonight by the applicant, so if you have questions regarding kind of the history of the property or, you know, what they're looking for the building, he'd be happy to answer those. Owen, do you mind putting up the architectural rendering? So we had a 3D rendering of the building done. Oh, sure. Yep. Yeah, there you go. We have floor plans and things like that too. This is the back side of the building. So this is kind of what you see along Franklin Street. That little bump out at the bottom is the utility room, just to kind of give you a plan reference. Basically, those doors at the bottom are the back side of the garage, the 3 white doors there. And this is the front side of the building, which is really kind of the west side facing the parking. You'll have entry doors as well as garage doors. Yeah, correct, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what they're going for. Although the color looks a little blue, it's actually supposed to be a little bit more of an earth tone color. It just doesn't really show up correctly, but you know, in terms of the building materials, it's like your vinyl siding, vinyl windows, stuff like that. So pretty typical materials. So I guess with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you folks have. Thank you.
So at this point, would be appropriate to move to open a public hearing?
Jurisdiction. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to accept jurisdiction of the site plan before the board, Franklin Street LLC, PID 30070, 16 Franklin Street.
Second.
Moved by McCracken, seconded by Myers to accept jurisdiction. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. McEachran.
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, the next thing we have to do is I'm going to make a motion of a determination of regional impact pursuant to RSA 3656. The board finds the proposal as presented at this time meets the definition of a development with regional impact.
Okay, moved by McEachran,
Second.
seconded by Myers. Mr. Chase.
No, this is a small local development, and it does not meet the definition of a regional impact.
Mr. Healy.
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. McEachran.
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. Feinauer.
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. Malaby.
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. Myers.
No, same reasons.
And the chair will vote no for the same reasons.
Mr. Chairman, moving right along, I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by McCracken, seconded by Myers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Public hearing is open. Anyone who would like to address this plan, leave comments, ask questions, please come forward. Give your name and address for the record.
Owen, anybody online? Mr. Chairman, seeing no one online, and would you like to speak to the gentleman in the back? No? Seeing no one rising to the occasion to speak, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by McCracken, seconded by Myers to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Public hearing is closed.
Question from the board? Just help me real quick, because it's been a while since I sat here. Is there any reason the building isn't like totally turned around, the garages are on Franklin Street?
Yeah, we actually,
What's that?
we talked about kind of doing like a drive-through concept. One of the big issues is Franklin Street obviously isn't a very wide street. Backing out into that street certainly wouldn't be
Okay.
appropriate. So with the alignment of, you know, the driveway kind of in a nicer spot off of Pearl, that was really the
Yeah, no
key
problem.
driver.
I'm just thinking if you
Yep.
could drive in off of Franklin, you could add a little backyard or something for people and.
We looked at that.
Everybody gets their two spots and there could have been a backyard, but.
Yep.
Absolutely understand, I mean, just for the people in the audience, you know, at home, understanding there'll be a front door and you just kind of walk in and that's all. But thank you. It's a great plan. I think you guys did a really nice job. It's something we've been looking forward to for a while, so
Thank you.
I appreciate all the effort you put into it.
Anyone else have comments or questions?
One quick question. Quick question. I always ask, so. Just give us the rationale for the waiver request for the boundary monumentation.
Yeah, so typically along the frontage, you are required to put a granite bound. So that's like a 4x4 by, I think, 3 or 4 feet long, you know, piece of granite that gets dug in the ground. It typically sticks up, you know, a little bit above grade. The particular corner that we're talking about is the very northeast corner. It's actually in Franklin Street, the road.
This one?
Correct, yes. You can kind of see the edge of pavement line on the plan wraps around, so it's actually like if we were to actually set a granite bound there, we'd have to dig through the asphalt. You know, we don't want to disturb the road. What we're looking to do, and what we commonly do in a situation like this, if it's in pavement or something like that, is we put a railroad spike, and it's basically, it's a little spike that gets hammered into the ground in the appropriate location. It's flush, so the plows don't rip it up or whatever, and it shows the boundary. You know, it's again, just kind of a way to be not disturbing the road. We certainly don't want to peel back the road. We kind of want to leave it as is, so kind of without having to rip up or disturb it, that's kind of the plan, and you know, obviously work that through with Mark as well, so.
Okay, I get it. It's on the corner, so it really, it's
Yeah,
not
and
like you're abutting a private property, so I get it, yeah.
Correct,
All right.
right.
Anyone else? Mr. Chase.
So I have one question. I'm having difficulties with the front setback. The CBD states that front side and rear yard depth shall be agreed upon by the planning board and the applicant. In no case shall the setback be less than 10 feet, yet with the decks, we only have 5 feet. Even without the decks, it's still 9 3/4 feet.
So in terms of the setbacks, because it's kind of, if this is interesting, the setbacks are obviously the big thing we kind of worked through over the years, but there's frontage on Franklin Street and Pearl Street. The front setback of the property is basically by zoning where you take access to the property if there's multiple pieces. So what we have is frontage on Pearl effectively, the side setbacks along Franklin and then on the west side, and then the rear setback is the south end of the property, which is where the 10-foot setback is. So I believe the front is an 8-foot max, the sides are 5-foot minimum, and then the rear is 10-foot minimum. So it's a little funny because of the fact that there's 2 roads, basically. But even still, even if it was, you know, you could consider frontage from Franklin as well. Again, that would be an 8-foot maximum setback, not a minimum. The rear would be, you know, it could be, I guess, kind of either side, the west or the south. But in this case, again, because the frontage is taken from Pearl, that's really what it's all
Right,
based
well,
on.
actually, if you counted Franklin as the front of the building, it would be no less than 10 feet. So,
Sorry, no,
less than 10 feet.
is the,
But I guess what we're looking at is, and I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
That's normally where your address comes from, is where your driveway comes out, which leads where you're calling it 16 Franklin Street, tells me that your frontage is gonna be off Franklin Street, which you would have a minimum, no less than 10 feet. So we're kind of,
So
you're
the
saying we're
address will
coming
be
off Pearl, but you got a Franklin Street address, something's gotta give here.
yes, the address is changing. So we're working with the fire department actively. I know they're a little overwhelmed and have, what their resources are. We just haven't gotten an actual address from them. The request has been submitted. Everybody's looking to change this to have a Pearl Street address at the end.
Okay.
It just hasn't happened yet.
Just for the record, I can confirm what Paul said for Randy. I've talked to Dave Eastman and Fire, and they will change the address.
Okay, so if they're gonna call it Pearl Street, then that would be your frontage and you would be good.
Yes, for those exact,
You just couldn't have both, you can't have your cake and eat it too here. You gotta have one or the other.
I agree, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied.
Okay, anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, if there are...
I actually have one, now that everyone's done.
sorry.
I would like to refer to the architectural renderings.
Sure.
And you've explained to us that the one with the overhead doors is facing the drive and the parking lot,
Correct.
which has access from Pearl, so that is not from a frontage perspective, but from a streetscape perspective, that's the back of the building.
So,
And the ones with the doors and the balconies face Franklin
Right,
Street, which
correct.
would be the streetscape
correct.
frontage. Now, one of the things we like to do in these districts is to sort of break up excessive verticality. And I noticed that you've got a nice demarcation where the garage doors are. There's a contrasting color
Yep.
on the ground floor, and then therefore the lighter color is only 2 stories in elevation. I'm wondering if you would kindly consider doing the same treatment on the Franklin Street side so that the passenger entry doors are in a siding of a contrasting color, and the lighter color starts with the decks to kind of bring down the excessive verticality of the appearance of our streetscape.
Yeah, I see that as an easy enhancement to add. I actually don't disagree. I think it would look nice, and especially being on the street side, I think that's a very reasonable request. So yes, we could do that.
Great, thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, I will make a series of motions here. It sounds like we have consensus on the waivers, so I'll just do them all at one, if that's okay with the rest of the board members. Seeing no disagreement, I'm going to move to grant the waivers for the following sections of the LDCR, and I will do both. LDCR Section 17025G, boundary monumentation to allow for railroad spike, and LDCR Section 17066C to allow for overhead utility lines. Because, after review of the waiver request, the board finds that strict conformity to the regulations would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Second.
Moved by McEachran, seconded by Myers. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. McEachran.
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Malaby.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll continue on. Architectural design regulations. I would like to move and find pursuant to the LDCR 17085, the applicant as presented demonstrates substantial compliance to the architectural design regulations. This property is located in Central Business District and meets the very high level of compliance as outlined in Section 17084, where traditionally buildings in the core of the district are taller, closer to the sidewalk, and built with more substantive materials with elaborate design and detailing. The intent is to maintain it as a pleasing environment, with the one suggestion also provided by the chair.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could just say, instead of as presented, as amended during the meeting.
Okay. Please make that adjustment as amended during the meeting. I don't need my last edification.
Great.
Second.
So moved by McEachran, seconded by Myers. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. McEachran.
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Continuing on, Mr. Chairman, finding of facts. I would like to move to find the proposed plan does not alter the existing conditions which would affect the access to the lots, ensuring the health, safety, welfare of the neighborhood remains unchanged as a result of the site plan. In addition, the proposed development would allow for ongoing redevelopment of the central business district downtown parcels and help expand the town's tax base. Also, the redevelopment project would provide for additional housing options in the downtown as well as an improved neighborhood. And finally, the existing vacant eyesore property, which had a fire, will be demolished and replaced with this new structure. This property is on the town's property maintenance committee, which recommends removal of all existing structure.
Second.
Moved by McEachran, seconded by Myers. I'll poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. McEachran?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Maloney?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, pursuant to RSA 6764, 3 expedited review, I would like to move to approve this plan with the following conditions. Subject to owner's signature, subject to on-site inspection by town engineer, establishment of appropriate escrow is required to the project, to complete the project. Note the approved waivers on the plan, that the existing vacant structure shall be removed by December 15th, 2023, as recommended by the code enforcement officer. Obtain written approval from the planning director designee that the GIS dis is received, operable, and complies with LDCR section 170.24.14C. That conditions precedent shall be met within 6 months.
And can we add that the architectural renderings of the exteriors be modified so that the east-facing side has the same color treatment as the west-facing side?
I added that. I said that quite nicely, by the way.
Second.
Moved by McEachran, seconded by Myers. Any discussion? We'll poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. McEachran?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Maloney?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Great. Thank you all very
Welcome.
much.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to the new building.
All right, we have no other business, other board comments.
Seeing that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by McEachran, seconded by Myers to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.